This week is unfortunately a very sad week for Elite Dangerous. One of the best community-run websites, in fact arguably the best community-run website, EDDB, has now shut down. Now many of you will be familiar with the Elite Dangerous database. It was a resource that allowed players to locate modules, trade routes, commodities, ships, and many other such things, including star systems, space stations, and just about anything you could ever ask for. Now, the website closed down on the 8th of April. There is a message there that we're going to take a look at in just a moment. And quite clearly, this is going to have a massive impact upon the Elite Dangerous community. Now, at this point, it's only fair to point out that there are other websites and resources that you can use. So if you feel you're going to miss EDDB, then do make sure to check out the other websites, such as Inara. I will make sure to link these in the video description. They are exceptional resources with a lot of community-run effort put into them. Now, before we get into the details of why exactly EDDB has gone and what it means for the game, let's take a look at, well, why the website was so much needed. Why was it so vital to Elite Dangerous as a whole? Well, there are a number of reasons for this. Elite Dangerous is a truly massive game. There's a huge galaxy here, over 400 billion star systems, and tens of thousands of space stations and planetary ports at which people can land at. Now, inside the game, it's very difficult, virtually impossible in fact, to find out where certain resources are located. Say you want a certain module or a certain ship, you can't just look at resources within the game to locate this. In fact, you have to actually land at a space station or a planetary port to see what it has in stock. Now, this would be not too dissimilar to, instead of browsing a website in modern times, visiting each shop independently to see what it has in stock. You can't phone them, you can't communicate them within any way. You have to actually drive to the shop and visit it. For some reason, Frontier have always thought this is a good gameplay mechanic. It's something I've never understood. I've never understood the reason for this development decision, but still, to this day, it is a key aspect of the game, 8 years, nearly 9 years, after the game's release. So quite naturally and understandably, most players are not too happy about this way of playing the game. In fact, they find it unintuitive, at least that is what I would suspect, and is a huge reason behind the immense popularity of the website. The Elite Dangerous database at its height had 7 to 8 million viewers, according to stats obtained by Yamix from the website creator Themroc. And by the way, do check out Yamix's video if you haven't seen it yet. It's a fantastic video on exactly what is going on here. I'll make sure to link that in the video description. The bottom line is, though, today EDDB is closed and it is going to be sorely missed. Now, EDDB creator Themroc has posted a message to the website explaining the reasoning and the thinking behind shutting it down. And I would like to say at this point thank you to Themroc, because obviously, you have more or less single-handedly carried much of Elite Dangerous on your back for the community. And when it comes to trading, when it comes to locating modules, when it comes to finding ships, without this resource, it would have been extremely difficult. And I, for one, certainly wouldn't have probably played Elite Dangerous in the way I did. Now, it's important to point out at this point that Themroc does clearly point out that Frontier are not responsible for the closure of this website. That said, it does say that they're not entirely blameless. Let's take a look at a couple of paragraphs here from the message on the website. So over the years, we as third-party community have received more and more support from Frontier developments, and they deserve thanks for that. Unfortunately, it was often a case that we also had to fight hard for one or the other concession. Personally, I always felt like Frontier was putting in just as much energy into support as was just acceptable. So my take on that is the bare minimum. Minimum viable product is something you'll often see associated with Elite Dangerous and Frontier. To date, some data points such as power play updates or installation information are simply not provided and have to be painstakingly and error-prone manually entered via a self-created back-end. And the data which is provided is regularly incorrect or faulty. It was and is frustrating. So it's pretty clear that Frontier, well, they don't provide the best of information. Whether this is down to problematic code, problematic server issues, or something else, we'd probably never know. But Frontier do have issues when it comes to communications, and whether these problems were actively discussed with the developer tools or the developer community, we also don't know. But it seems, based on what we're seeing here, that it was consistently a problem that Themroc specifically has faced. Now, Themroc went on to say that with EDDB, I developed the platform through which a lot of data was collected. What actually annoyed me the most was the fact that I could never really focus on developing great applications with the data, but that it was primarily about getting and cleaning this data first, because that task alone was immense and with my own very high standards for quality. I hope that this also explains why running the website is not just a matter of hosting, but requires a lot of effort. The reasons why I quit EDDB are complex, and my personal development plays the main role here. But Frontier Developments is not entirely innocent in this. I know that other game developers shower their third-party community with support. Unfortunately, I often felt the contrary with Elite Dangerous. So this is a theme you'll hear again and again when it comes to Elite Dangerous. Whether it's event organisers such as those from Distant Worlds, whether it's content creators such as myself and many others out there, or whether it's third-party tool creators. Of course, you'll also hear this from players as well. There is a common thread. Getting information from Frontier, getting assistance from Frontier is extremely difficult at best and extremely frustrating at worst. And in some cases, people hear absolutely nothing and receive no help whatsoever. Now, it is important to point out that Frontier are not they don't do absolutely nothing here. They do help out. As Themroc pointed out, over the years, Frontier have improved immensely, both, it seems, with the third-party tool creators, and also, I can say, with the content creators as well. The Frontier Content Creator Program is a pretty neat program whereby Frontier do provide some information as well as points of contact for content creators. But that's not to say that everything is perfect, far from it in fact. Now, I've made a video recently about why I find Frontier and Elite so challenging, why I found them so frustrating over the years. So if you're interested in that topic, do check that out. But I don't want to really rehash that topic in this video, as I've already discussed it previously. One thing this whole situation does highlight is Elite's unusual and Elite's unreasonable dependence upon player community tools. Now, other games out there, most other MMOs, most other live service games, they don't have always the best tools within them, and sometimes you'll need third-party tools just to provide that extra boost. But in the case of Elite Dangerous, it feels somewhat different. Without the third-party tools, Elite Dangerous is essentially, for many people, unplayable. Again, try locating a specific module within the game without access to a third-party tool. Try locating a specific commodity. You're going to have a lot of difficulty. The tools within the game do exist to an extent, but for the most part, they are non-intuitive, and in other parts, they simply don't exist. For example, you can't see what modules are at a station unless you've landed at that station. So, what are my takeaway points about this entire situation? Well, I have a few. Firstly, a massive amount of thanks, a huge debt of gratitude is owed to Themroc, who has put 8 years of his life into maintaining this website, a website upon which Elite Dangerous has been riding to a large extent. Themroc, I would honestly say, has carried Elite Dangerous, at least in part, upon his back. So, a massive thank you there to Themroc, because without you, without your website, I, for one, certainly won't be playing Elite Dangerous in the way I do today. It's been a huge resource for the game, vastly important. Secondly, I think that this entire situation really does shine a spotlight on Frontier and their way of, developing games, the design decisions they make for their games. The fact that their design decisions are so opaque, the design decisions themselves are opaque, but also likewise that that reflects within the game itself, with gameplay mechanics also being opaque. So much so that players are hugely dependent upon these external resources. The third point is, what will Frontier do about this? Firstly, hopefully they will say, if they haven't already, issue a thanks to Themroc and acknowledge just how important and how vital EDDB has been to Elite Dangerous and the community over the years. But secondly, would it highlight to them that perhaps they need to do something with the game itself? Do they need to make some fundamental changes? Hopefully they will realise that yes, that is the case. Elite Dangerous does need some refactoring when it comes to discoverability of commodities, modules, and many other things within the game. Not saying it needs dumbing down, but it needs to be a little bit more intuitive and it needs to waste a lot less time for players, because flying around station to station is far from ideal and is a massive amount of wasted time. So let's see how this goes over the coming weeks and the coming months. It's very likely that a similar website to EDDB will be created by someone else. Going to be a huge undertaking, and it sounds as though it takes a lot of work to maintain, but likely it's going to happen. And well, thank you to anyone who's willing to do that, because Elite does definitely need it. The big question though is, how will things go with Frontier? And there is an investigation, supposedly a rework of a major game feature in the future. Will Frontier take up the challenge and somehow include EDDB-like features into Elite Dangerous itself? This would be a massive boon to the game and has long been needed. Let's see how that goes. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.